Hi. Saturday night. Feeling kind of frisky. It's Saturday night hoedown. Some of you people understand that. Some of you people will not. But it's Saturday night. It's a good time for Four Guys Roundtable Show. What do you say, fellas?
Yeah. Sure.
Why am I here?
Look at how amused Darth Pat is.
Darth Pat spent the last several days in a fair amount of physical pain, so yeah.
That's what happens when you don't hire the proper female misogynist. Fuck your body up.
Wait. Did you say female misogynist?
I think he meant to say masseuse.
Yes, I think that is what he meant to say, but oh well.
No, it wasn't masseuse, like massage. I was saying
therapist?
Misogynist, came out the way it came out. You got a shitty massage from the wrong females you hired. That's pretty much what happened. You would have called this guy. Would have got you the hookup.
I mean, that's not, but,
I think even good old AJ knows somebody from our past that does massage that could have hooked him up. She had red hair.
Yes.
Who I was told you better not date her.
And
then it turned into yeah, I did. And then it was done. And then it was over real quick.
Points for trying.
Yeah, points for trying.
Shit happens.
Yeah, it does. So, speaking of shit.
Try things out and,
Speaking of shit, here we go.
Speaking of shit, my son, who is 4 years old now, 4.
Has he inherited your ability to blow up the bathroom?
He's inherited my ability to stink a room up with a fart. He blasted one yesterday, and I looked at him. I said, "Lucas, did you poop?" And you're like, it literally.
Did you shart?
It literally smelled like a turd. I was like, "Geez, a whiz, man!" Like, and then he's trying to run at me. I'm like, "Get away from me with your stinky butt!" And like how kids do. I shouldn't say that I don't do that to my wife sometimes, run after her, but
Is that? I don't know if that's what he wanted to inherit from his dad.
I don't know. It's just
he's SOL now.
Yeah. Like, he's farted before, don't get me wrong. He's farted plenty of times, but this is like the first time it actually stank. I was like, little kids have farts all the time, but I was like, damn, that stinks. So I don't know what the heck that was, but
Pat, I read that book, the main event book. I read the whole book.
We promised you a great main event.
Yes. It's a decent book. I don't know if I learned a ton of stuff that I didn't already know, but there's definitely a part in it where he's talking about Vince saying, Vince always thinks everything's good shit and most of the rest of us don't.
Who's that?
Well, that's
anyway.
His name's Bill Handstock, I think.
Handscock?
Who the hell is Bill Handstock?
Well, I mean that explains the old adage that you hear quite a bit about. Oh, it's always booked for an audience of one and all that other stuff, so like either nobody can override Vince or nobody can talk Vince out of, doing stupid stuff, or nobody tries to talk Vince out of doing stupid stuff. Who the hell knows?
Did this guy work for WWE or something?
No, he did not.
He just interviewed a shitload of ex-wrestlers and people that worked under him, or like, where's he getting this info from?
I don't know, but it was all pretty accurate. So I didn't read the acknowledgement section at the end, so I didn't really pay attention to that. It was very up to date though. Like, he must have finished writing this book in like the summer, because he was talking about coronavirus and WrestleMania not happening, and AEW and all kind. Like it was very up to date. Like literally was probably finished in the summer.
Interesting.
It was good. It was a good read. I don't think I learned a whole lot of stuff that I didn't already know.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. So, are you guys getting ready for Christmas? Is everybody getting ready for Christmas? It is very close to Christmas. We're like
I'm done.
I'm still
2 weeks away, 14 days.
I'm still trying to get all my decorations up because, I just come home from work and I don't have much energy to do much of anything. So,
I hear you.
Yeah.
and also because, I was waiting for my parents to get their stuff up first. My parents have been slower moving as they do their own shit. So there's that. And, I've had a harder time getting to the Christmas spirit this year. I think that's just more lockdown related shit and just coronavirus, everything. And, Thursday night I had to go to the mall.
Ooh.
And
Sorry.
yeah, it was to get something that we get for my dad every year. So I knew exactly where I was going. I knew exactly where it would be and everything like that. But it's just like, it's Thursday, December 10th. So you're talking 2 weeks before Christmas, and it was the least busy I'd ever seen a mall. In Christmas season. So it was depressing in a way. Just was saying that oh, this mall's supposed to be so much busier and every other thing. So, today I went and got Applebee's curbside for dinner, and we just re-implemented. Well, the governor of our fair state, Commonwealth rather, reinstituted lockdowns and everything. So no more indoor dining for the next 3 weeks. And I kind of forgot about that as I was driving up, and then as I turned into the parking lot and seeing nobody there, it's like, oh yeah, that's right, we can't do indoor dining again. So
You should see our malls down here. There's people all over the place.
Yeah, here too.
It's weird. It's going to be a Christmas unlike any other, basically. So
I have no comment.
I'm gonna be
bullshit.
Sitting at home. I'm going to be sitting at home that day, probably.
I'll be at home too. My sister and brother-in-law will come over, and we're going to my other sister's the following day.
My mom's going to cancel it. It's coming. So she's so paranoid. The other day, I got a phone call saying you need to go get tested. I'm like, I saw Zach before any of this happened. She's like, I still think you should go get tested. I'm like, stop.
Well, when was the last time you saw him?
I saw him on Thanksgiving, and he came into contact with this person on Black Friday and Saturday.
Okay, so you haven't seen him since Thanksgiving?
Correct.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're not even a contact of a contact of a
My
contact.
mom's my mom's paranoid. So.
Okay, but that is being overly paranoid, because even though they just reduced the guidelines for quarantining if you were possibly exposed and everything, it's you're past 14 days now too. So it's you're fine.
Yeah. It's one of those things. But yeah, today I spent, well, I should say my family spent the entire day getting ready for Christmas. We got up, we went out and got our tree, and then we got home, decorated outside, went and ran out for lights because my lights are starting to go because I haven't bought lights since I've been married to my wife. So we haven't bought lights for 10 years, so they're starting to break and shit like that. Yeah, we got lucky. I mean, we just got lucky with lights. I don't know. But and the funny thing is no place had fucking lights. Just those regular strings of fucking green lights, the green corded lights. Nobody fucking had them. So we ended up going to Walmart, where I don't want to go. I didn't want to go to Walmart. And had to stand outside because now they're doing the 50% occupancy, to comply with.
They are interesting.
Yeah, the one in Whitehall is. So it's okay, you guys can go in now. And then you wait, and then the next group of people, oh, you guys can go in? It's oh my God, are you fucking kidding me? I literally was this must be what Black Friday shopping's like. You're waiting outside for the store to fucking open. I was like, this is stupid. But it was kind of nice.
Then you're just waiting in a line for endless hours, depending upon when you decide to go there and when the store is opening and every other damn thing. So,
But it was
I mean,
interesting.
I haven't had to do Black Friday retail for so long now, but it's like I do remember the years I did, and they were, they were fun. So,
Well, my wife said she hasn't waited in a Black Friday line for years because Black Friday starts so damn early now. It starts on Thursdays. But it's just
I really can't remember the last time I went out for Black Friday.
But it was just interesting. Like that is now that because everything's got to be cleaned so often now. Walmart is the cleanest Walmart in Whitehall that I've ever seen. Like, it is so clean in there. There isn't a fucking speck of dirt on the floor. I was like, holy shit, this is clean. This is awesome.
How long it took them to clean it. I mean, all the trash that goes in and out of that place.
Oh my god.
I
was very surprised.
I don't know what you're saying.
So yeah, that was my day, and it was a really good day because you know what, I'm like kind of like Darth Pat. I wasn't really feeling Christmas. I know it's coming, and I know I got to do my Christmas shopping, got to get everything done. But today put me back into the Christmas spirit because seeing my kid's face, like my son, he's like, oh, the tree's up, there's lights on the tree, and putting the Christmas decorations up, like getting the tree, all that stuff just really put me into Christmas spirit. So I'm like, this was a great day. Now I'm ready, but now I got to go shopping next week for my wife because I work Monday and then I'm off the rest of the week until I start my new position. So I was like, yeah, I got to do shopping next week.
The store manager at my store gave us all ornaments that says "fuck 2020."
Oh, that's sweet. I like it.
Nice.
That's good.
That's
some good shit.
I mean, that pretty much I think sums up most everybody. I mean, like, trust me, some of my work passwords right now involve the phrase "fuck 2020" to a certain extent, or in some way, with like additional characters to meet all the password requirements and shit like that. But it's like that's the kind of ornament that I'm pretty sure, like, the government should just be like sending to everybody. Because I think it's a sentiment that everybody agrees with, no matter what your denomination or what you worship is. And so it's like even if you don't celebrate Christmas, you would like take that ornament and proudly display it somewhere.
Yeah.
It's also kind of like how I'm hoping someday that the government sends us all like T-shirts that say something to the effect of like, I survived the 2020 pandemic and all I got was this lousy T-shirt.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to open up this can of worms too deep, but
here we go.
How about all the Star Wars stuff that Disney threw at us the other day and the Marvel stuff?
Well, here's what I'll say about that. There was so much, there was literally so much that was announced. I'm honestly not sure if I caught every single thing they announced.
And I didn't even pay attention, so I have no idea what the hell happened.
Well, the easiest way to say it, Jeremy, is this. Over the next 4 years, I don't know, there is going to be a shit ton of Star Wars and Marvel stuff that will hit Disney Plus and movie theaters or whatever.
We got the first official announcement for the next movie, Jeremy.
Yeah, so it's like if you like Star Wars and Marvel and Pixar, because there was a lot of Pixar related stuff too. It sounds like you won't be disappointed. Really, there will be a ton of content that will eventually find its way to the airwaves.
Well, I knew they were doing all kinds of TV shows that were based in the Marvel universe, like Hawkeye and somebody.
WandaVision.
The WandaVision one's supposed to debut early next year. The
Winter Soldier.
Thank you. I was blanking again. The
Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier one, I think, is supposed to be out sometime next year. Now we also know that they confirmed the Hawkeye series. They also confirmed the She-Hulk series.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's going to be a ton of stuff. I mean, in Star Wars, like they announced the Lando series. They announced an Ahsoka series. They announced a
some Sith thing or dark side thing.
They announced the Rangers of the New Republic series. They announced the Obi-Wan limited series, which I do want to make a quick comment about real quick. And then they announced that Patty Jenkins, who directed the Wonder Woman movies,
Rogue
is going to
Squadron.
direct a Rogue Squadron movie that will be out, I think they said, in 2023.
The other thing
Now-
too was from the animated series, The Bad Company or The Bad Batch. They
The
showed
Bad
a trailer
Batch,
for-
yeah.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the thing with the Rogue Squadron movie is they didn't really specify timeline, like if it was like during the original trilogy, after the original trilogy, blah blah blah. Because I'm interested to see, of course, if depending upon what it is, in the old canon, the Legends canon now, as they call it, I guess, when I think of the term Rogue Squadron, the first person that pops into my mind is Wedge.
It's Wedge, yep.
Well, Dennis Lawson's a little older now, and of course, made that very brief cameo in Rise of Skywalker. But they'd have to obviously get somebody younger if it was going to be set between. If it was going to be set anytime, prior to the sequel trilogy. So.
Did you see the Patty Jenkins trailer for it?
Yeah, it was
I have-
kind of cool the way they did it.
I have to go back and look because I kind of feel like this X-wing that's in the background that she's walking to. I have to zoom in to kind of see because I wonder if that's going to give us a hint because of the color scheme of the X-wings are usually different in different eras.
I was watching it on a small screen, so I didn't really take notice of that.
I have to go back and look. The other
What
thing
were you-
too is they're making a show or a movie or anime. I don't remember which one it is about the High Guard. So before.
Yeah, I think I
Episode
saw
one.
something old. I think I saw something like Old Republic.
Yes, yes.
So, yeah.
I mean, that'll be interesting. That'll be
coincide
interesting
with
again.
the books.
Yeah, that'll just be interesting to go there. I mean, will they? Of course, anytime you're going to say anything about Old Republic,
We
just,
want Revan, right?
just always makes me wonder if they're going to go anywhere with anything from the Knights of the Old Republic. Yeah, because they're not canon now. So,
Yeah.
but I
Handy.
of course say they were so far in the past. There's no reason they can't be. But
What were you going to say about the Obi-Wan, Pat?
Okay, so Hayden Christensen
Yes.
back as Darth Vader,
Yes.
which is
I'm
that's
stoked.
cool. But
They're gonna have a badass battle.
doesn't it totally ruin the confrontation in Episode 4 now?
It depends.
I mean, the dialogue in that scene is literally, we meet again. The circle is now complete. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master, which almost implies that they have not seen each other.
Okay, well, maybe
since
I don't.
since Obi-Wan sliced his limbs off. So I'm just curious to see how they do that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because you almost think if you're bringing that character into the series, there has to be a confrontation. Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see.
They said there was going to be a battle between the two of them.
Yeah.
So
So-
I'm looking forward to it.
Did you guys? Did not everybody watch Mando yet?
I did not watch the new
Okay.
Mandalorian.
I'm
Okay.
caught up. I haven't watched it with my dad yet because he had to go to he had a procedure in the hospital on Friday, which unfortunately was not successful.
What'd you say, Joe?
I watched it. I liked it.
I liked the very end of it for sure.
Yeah.
I'll say that much. I think that
Yeah.
that was kind of like
Very
the
end.
yeah, it was kind of like a fist pump scene,
Yeah.
So I think it's time to get this thing
Yep.
that we call a podcast started. I think it's about that time. Yeah. Bring forth the
maybe
rhythm and the
topic.
rhyme.
We've already been doing the podcast part,
I mean,
We
we
do
do the
podcasts.
we do the podcast, but at the same time, it's like we're doing the podcast.
Well, the official start of the podcast
Yeah.
with our official topic.
Yes.
How about that? Does that sound better for you fuckers?
Yes.
No,
No.
I mean, we're just nitpicking for nitpicking's sake.
All right. So, Theo, what in the hell are we
Yep.
talking about tonight?
Stuff in wrestling. Bad things that happen in wrestling.
Bad things that happen in wrestling.
Like, can I poke you in with my fingers somewhere?
No,
Can
you
I
cannot
trip
poke me
over-
with your fingers somewhere.
Can I trip over something as I'm trying to break through a wall and fall over? Can I start a fire with a piece of silver paper and it just not work? And I almost burned myself.
Can I birth a hand?
So all these things sound very fantastic. So we're talking about some of the most ridiculous, stupid, moronic moments in wrestling history. Nice. So this is, if anything, for all you viewers out there or listeners out there, this should bring you a ton of laughs. Because you can go back and check all these things on YouTube. They're all there on YouTube. If you have the WWE Network, you can find any of the WWE, WCW, pretty much anything the WWE owns, if you want to check it out there too. But we're going to talk about all these goofy ass fucking things that happened and just how moronic and how dumb some of these things really were. And I think we should start off with probably the number one dumbest thing that ever happened in wrestling history, which would be the greatest thing of all time, the Shockmaster. Because that has got to be like the number one dumb moment of all time.
It is right there, like at the top of the list.
So good old Darth Pat, I know you have something to say, so we'll let you get it off your chest because as our resident wrestling historian, please give us a little tidbit of this whole build-up.
The year was 1993. I was but 12 years old.
I was just a little gigolo back then.
Of course you were, Joe.
Let's see, in just starting 7th grade, I think. That sounds about right. Anyway, they were gearing up, WCW was, for their Fall Brawl pay-per-view. I don't remember if this was the first year Fall Brawl was a pay-per-view. It had been used as a Clash of the Champions name. It feels like it was the first Fall Brawl pay-per-view. But anyway, the noteworthy thing about that pay-per-view is this is kind of where they started the tradition of doing the War Games match at this event. Like prior, they had done it at the Great American Bash and for a couple of years at Wrestle War. Like, for example, the War Games match from 1992, which is at Wrestle War 92, was Sting's Squadron against the Dangerous Alliance, which is a great match. It's a 5-star match. If you ever have the opportunity to watch that, I would definitely recommend it. It's also kind of interesting to see WCW when Flair wasn't there. So anyway, Fall Brawl 93. So they're gearing up to do a new War Games match, and the big feud that had been kind of going on for a lot that summer was the Superpowers, as they were called, and the Masters of the Power Bomb. The Superpowers.
Sounds awesome already.
The Superpowers were Sting and Davey Boy Smith, not the British Bulldog. Davey Boy Smith. I don't believe they could refer to him as the British Bulldog. I don't think he owned the trademark at that point.
I'm sure he did not.
Yeah. So this was like, of course, he was in WCW because he had been fired by WWF towards the end of 1992 for
being an alcoholic.
No, drug test.
Drug test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Supposedly, he's like he and Warrior had been fired at the same time in late 90s.
Failing drug tests.
For failing drug tests, right. Warrior, I think, insisted that he and Davey Boy were scapegoated, but that's Warrior saying that. So
I'm pretty sure Davey Boy, after reading about him going to Bret Hart in Wembley, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
That's what he said to him like 2 minutes into the match. I'm fucked.
I don't remember anything we planned for the match, Brett. You're gonna have to walk me through it. Well,
yeah,
I mean,
and if Warrior ever tries to say that he didn't do steroids or something, he's full of fucking shit.
Well, Warrior can't say anything.
Well,
anymore,
I know he can't physically say anything.
But he also admitted that he did steroids. So yeah. I mean, he did admit it. But and the funny thing is, Matt's or AJ's Davey Boy impression there was pretty good because
yeah, it was. I was impressed.
well, the funniest Davey Boy impression I've ever heard is Bruce Pritchard. And you know, he said like there was a common one where when they tried to blame Davey Boy for like backstage pranks and stuff, he had kind of a go-to defense, which was, "I wasn't even there. It was Owen." But also, you know, Pritchard was right there at the gorilla position at the screw job, and Owen and Davey Boy were right there, like ready to do their planned run-in, which of course never happened because of the way the match ended. But they were like watching it, and it's like, you know, Pritchard said that as soon as the bell started ringing, Davey Boy just went, "Owen, they fucked him." They fooled Brett. So,
All right. So who was the
Anyway,
power
the
bomb?
superpowers were Sting and Davey Boy Smith. The masters of the power bomb were Big Van Vader and the master and ruler of the world himself, Sid Vicious.
The king of the great promo.
Yes. So they started this big thing, and they were going to do a War Games match. And I think this was the first time that they did it as 4-on-4 instead of 5-on-5. Though I could be wrong on that now that I say that. I think the one maybe with where Sid almost killed Pillman was only 4-on-4. So Vader and Sid got Harlem Heat to be their partners. Harlem Heat were still relatively new, and they were being called Cole and Kane at the time, which I never understood why that was. But Sting and Davey Boy got Dustin Rhodes, and they needed a fourth person. So they did this big segment on Ric Flair's A Flair for the Gold talk show segment on WCW Saturday Night, because Flair, I think,
with Fifi.
Yeah, because Flair, when he first came back, he was still under a non-compete for wrestling, so they gave him an interview segment until he could start wrestling again, which they continued for a little while. So they were going to do this big thing. Sting and Davey Boy are being confronted by Vader and Sid on the segment, and Sting is all like, we're going to introduce you to our partner. And, it's like, and he says something like, he is going to shock the world because it's the Shockmaster. And then, the camera cuts over to the wall, and there's this, explosion kind of thing. And then all of a sudden you see this guy come literally falling through the wall. I hate to describe it, but you cannot say that he was breaking through the wall. You can only describe it as he was falling through the wall.
It was awesome.
Now, for those of you who haven't seen it, picture somebody who just trips over their own feet or trips over something that they didn't know was there, like an uneven piece of pavement or something like that, and then they just go tumbling face first, basically. That's what happened, except he's also falling through a breakaway wall. Now, the poor bastard who was subjugated to this as the Shockmaster was Fred Ottman, who was better known to most people as Tugboat and Typhoon from WWF. His WWF run had ended earlier in '93, and so WCW brought him in to be this guy. Now, that in and of itself, you would think, why? No offense to Fred Ottman, he was not somebody who was regarded as a great worker. He was not somebody who was regarded, I think, even as being a main event level talent. He had been in a tag team, and while that tag team had held the WWF tag team titles, yeah, he wasn't
anything special. He wasn't anything special.
And he certainly wasn't some kind of game-changing thing,
For sure.
But that's only half the problem.
Here's my favorite part of this. So I might spoil it here.
Yeah, the other half of his problem is his outfit. And Jeremy, do you want to kind of describe his outfit for people?
There's one part that I remember about it, and this you'll have to enlighten him on the rest, because this is the only part that sticks out in my mind.
That's the only part you need to remember, Jeremy.
Is the awesome silver sparkly
glittery
stormtrooper helmet that he had on was fucking awesome. He didn't even have to trip through the wall. Like, if he would have just coming out with that helmet on was fucking awesome, because they painted over the eyes and everything, so he couldn't even fucking see out the damn thing. It's awesome.
So they literally took a Star Wars stormtrooper helmet, covered it in glitter so that it would be unrecognizable. And according to all accounts, left eye holes that were maybe that big around.
So about the size of 2 pinholes.
Yeah, that's basically what it was.
That was lame creativity as far as them coming up with an outfit and a gimmick for him.
Oh, absolutely.
Lazy, lame, and just pathetic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other, so it's like, there was no costume. I can't really describe the costume. Other than that, he was wearing like what looked like cargo pants, and he was wearing this like huge like vest kind of like vest
I
jacket.
thought he had a blue
kind of
T-shirt
thing.
on or something like that too.
No, he didn't have a shirt on.
Oh no, shirt.
Not at that point. Like when they tried to salvage it afterwards, I think he was kind of looking like a construction worker. But that's something else entirely. That's something else entirely.
Not a sexy one either. Tell you that.
Yeah. Now, one of the reasons why poor Fred Ottman was probably subjected to this, if you will, is that he was, I believe, in some way, shape, or form related to Dusty Rhodes. Like I think he was he was Dusty Rhodes' brother-in-law, meaning that he was therefore also an uncle to Dustin and Cody Rhodes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's probably one of the reasons why he got put in this match, to be honest. Because Dusty, I'm pretty sure Dusty was booking again at WCW at the time. Dustin obviously was there. So anything.
Could you imagine what Dusty was probably saying in the back? And I can't do it like you do, Darth Pat, but he's probably like, "This will be fantastic. We'll put you in a glittery helmet."
let me tell you something, baby. We come up with this great idea for you. We're gonna put you in a helmet. We're gonna have you come breaking through a wall, and just like Jim Cornette said, if somebody comes out of a box, they're over. Well, guess what? I'm doing a variation on that. It's called if somebody comes breaking through a wall, they get over.
Even if their mask falls off on the way out.
Yes, that's what we were building to. You think that we were done with how horrible this was, but we weren't. Because some genius in craft services, creative services, whatever the fuck you want to call it, for WCW, was I guess
6-year-old in the background making costumes.
Was I guess worried that the breakaway wall was too breakaway. That like the little explosion thing it might have like broke through it before Fred Ottman could break through it. So they apparently took like a 2x4 and like nailed it to the bottom to like hold it in place. Nobody bothered to tell Fred Ottman.
They got their karma for booking a terrible idea. Karma bit them in the ass on this one. So
nobody bothered to tell Fred Ottman that there was this 2x4 that was on the bottom. Because
that they stole from Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
He's basically expecting to just walk through it, head to toe.
Yeah.
So this poor idiot,
head to shin, more like it,
trips over the fucking 2x4, which of course did not break away. And in the process of him tripping and falling on his face, the fucking helmet comes off.
And everybody knows who it is.
I mean, everybody knows who it is if you actually knew who that was. Some people are probably like, who the fuck is that?
If you watch WWF, you would have been able to catch enough of a glimpse of his face to be like, oh, that's Typhoon. Dusty told the story before he passed away where Cody was watching at home with some friends and turned to them and said, and I'll do the Dusty voice because he was talking the way he was telling the story of what Cody saw. I think that was Uncle Fred. So Cody knew right away who it was and everything, and to try to really just like put the icing on the cake, even though we've already got about 4 layers of icing on this sumbitch, you can hear everybody else who's on the set basically losing their minds in one way or another. You can hear Flair making some kind of comment. You can hear Sid going, "Oh my God!" Perhaps forgetting that. I don't remember if WCW Saturday Night was live. I don't think it was. But Sid is like pretty much saying, Sid is basically doing the equivalent of the "Holy shit, we're fucked." And you can hear Davey Boy going, Davey Boy's going, he fell right on his ass.
So
poor Fred, as quickly as he can, gathers the helmet, puts it back on, stands back up, and tries going through the rest of the thing, which involved Ole Anderson, who was also either booking or was like, one of the just like the top backstage people at the time, with this like pre-recorded like voiceover where he's doing like he was doing the voice he did for the Black Scorpion voiceovers a few years ago, where he was like, "You want a piece of me? I'll see you at Fall Brawl." And leaving aside everything else, leaving aside the pratfall, which ruined it from the start, why did they do this voiceover? It wasn't like he was going to be able to wrestle in the helmet.
Nope.
Maybe. Who knows?
He was going to have to take the thing off. He wasn't going to be able to do that voice that Ole did at that time. So, oh my God, what the fuck were they thinking?
Well, evidently they weren't, and we're gonna cut that one off there because I think we've talked way enough about that.
Pat, you can segue this into another WCW one, another terrible character.
I was about to segue that into another because we actually have 2 other horrible characters for WCW, and we're not trying to pick on WCW, but let me tell you, they had a pretty good run of some pretty fucking terrible characters.
The Yeti,
yes, the Yeti, but Glacier, which looked like Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat, which that was terrible. And then, of course, RoboCop. What the fuck? What the fuck is RoboCop doing in wrestling?
Breaking that cage door open.
I've never really watched that particular show. It was May 1990 for WCW. It was a one-off, as it turned out, pay-per-view called Capital Combat: Return of RoboCop. It was WCW. It was WCW. It was WCW doing cross promotion in the sense that I believe it was RoboCop 2 was coming out.
Yeah.
So it was a way to try to cross promote that movie and try to get some buzz for the pay-per-view, I guess. This was also when Sting's feud with the Four Horsemen was in full swing because he had been kicked out of the Horsemen a couple months prior. This was also one of those ideas where it was just like, why? Just why did you do this?
That might be enough, Pat. We may not have to go into too much more detail about that
I don't think we need to.
Yeah, well, here's the funny thing.
Nothing about that.
Here's the funny thing. I want to just kind of give you really quickly what the card for that pay-per-view was, okay?
Okay.
Norman the Lunatic, who would later be Bastion Booger, and the Road Warriors against Bam Bam Bigelow, Cactus Jack, and Kevin Sullivan. Mean Mark against Johnny Ace.
The Heart Punch.
And yes, we all know who Mean Mark was, correct?
Yeah, of course, The Undertaker.
Yes, very good. The Samoan SWAT team, which was not really the Head Shrinkers, it was Fatu, Rikishi, and the Samoan Savage, who had been the Tonga Kid and Tama in WWF.
I love the way you just said that. You said Fatu instead. I always thought it was pronounced Fatu, and I love the fact that you say. Yes, you did.
My apologies.
That's mean. Just because he's a big guy doesn't mean he's fat too.
He was fat too.
Well, anyway, so the Samoan SWAT team against Mike Rotunda and Tommy Rich, who are both pretty good workers. Mike Rotunda, of course, IRS. A hair versus hair match between Paul Ellering and Teddy Long, which only took 2 minutes. Yeah. Teddy Long didn't even have much hair left at that point. The Midnight Express beat Brian Pillman and Tom Zank for the United States Tag Team titles. There was a corporal punishment match between the Rock and Roll Express and the Freebirds, which at that point was Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin. Doom won the tag team titles, the World Tag Team titles from the Steiner Brothers. And Lex Luger beat Ric Flair by DQ in a cage match for the NWA Championship. That's a pretty solid card.
Yeah, not too bad.
But the only thing anybody remembers this pay-per-view for is the RoboCop shit. And the funny thing too, also again, is that he basically walked down to ringside and scared away the Horsemen from doing a beatdown of Sting, who was still injured at the time and couldn't wrestle anyway. And a lot of people have always remarked about how Ole Anderson was one of the toughest guys in the wrestling business in reality and everything. Mm-hmm. And there's Ole Anderson running away from RoboCop. And just to put the icing on the cake for this one too, it wasn't even frickin' Peter Weller, the actor who played RoboCop in the RoboCop costume. I think because he was smart enough to say, I think he was smart enough to say, yeah, I'm not fucking doing that.
Yeah, it was a stunt double who did it.
Yeah. So again, it was just at one point you can understand. Oh, let's try to do some like cross promotion, but it's like the only kind of cross promotion where that's going to get any kind of benefit is the movie from like people who are watching the pay-per-view who might then go say, oh, I want to go see the movie. There's nobody who's going to go see that movie who's going to be like, I have to order the pay-per-view because RoboCop.
This would be like Chucky coming out from underneath the ring during like a Kane match or some shit. Cross promote. Have Kane in the match for somebody, and Chucky comes up and grabs the wrestler.
They could have had Hornswoggle dress up like Chucky. So,
well, just to kind of digress real quickly, but I mean, they did do that segment between Chucky and Rick Steiner years later.
Oh my god.
They did, but not. That was a little different. But I mean,
yeah, Chucky was just on. Chucky was just on the screen and everything.
Yeah,
he wasn't actually in the ring.
Already weird.
Thank God.
But
what else are we going to talk about, Jeremy?
So I just,
well,
boy.
Since you mentioned Hornswoggle, we're going to talk about one of your favorite things in wrestling of all time, AJ, and that's little people in wrestling. Specifically when it has to do, because you love to see them get their ass kicked.
I do.
I think it's pretty awful, but it's pretty funny too.
When the Miz shot him with the T-shirt gun, that might be one of the greatest things I've ever seen on TV.
But more specifically, when wrestling decides to dress little people up,
oh man,
or midgets, whatever. I don't know what the what the politically correct term is.
I think these days little people is using midget. Yeah. I think is the one where it's like you don't want to use that.
Okay. Well, if I offended anybody by accidentally saying midget, I apologize. But when they dress little people up to imitate the pro wrestlers, and one of the ones that sticks out in my mind is when Edge and Christian
the Hardy Boys
had the Hardy Boys in 3D, or who was the Dudley Boys at that time, had the little people come out and imitate them
with the mini ladders.
With the mini ladders, exactly. That shit was funny. I mean, they did it well. That's why it was funny. But there are so many other times that we could, pick out, and I'm sure each one of you guys have your moment where it was really stupid, like just dumb, like it didn't, like this doesn't do anything for wrestling. So if somebody's got one, go ahead, throw it out. Feel free to.
The Hardy Boys, that's the one I remember the most, for sure.
I had actually forgotten about that. The ones that I always remember are when DX did it to Bret Hart after the screw job. And I remember Bret Hart saying that was one of the other things that kind of, cemented everything he needed to know about what happened that night. Because, like he says that Michael swore to him, of course, that he had nothing to do with it, which you can hear on camera from Wrestling with Shadows. But also that Michael said, like, I'm not going to make fun of you after you leave. And then like a week after he's gone, Triple H and Shawn Michaels are bringing out this, a little person with like a Bret Hart mask and sunglasses on, doing with like I'm assuming it was also a wig, and just doing the whole thing that Bret always used to do.
I mean, I thought that one was funny too, so I'm not gonna lie. So
the other one I can remember, I don't remember who the perpetrator was, if you will, but Booker T was the person who was being depicted as the little person. I don't remember if that was again Triple H during their feud around WrestleMania 19. I don't think it would have been when he was feuding with Austin, because like a face doesn't do that. Like a face doesn't bring out a little person meant to be, the person they're feuding with and everything. So I'm thinking it probably had to be Triple H doing it to him. I just don't remember for sure. My issue with it is that to me, it's slightly offensive in the sense that, because of the fact that you're making fun of, somebody who's not a little person by depicting them as a little person, it's saying one thing. And then when you're also bringing a little person out to represent that to represent the other person, it's almost making a comment saying like, oh, he's not to be taken seriously then. So I find it kind of silly, bad like that. The other issue I really have with it is that I never found it funny to begin with, but that they keep doing it. Like, they keep bringing it back every so often because, you know, they're sitting back there and they're saying, hey, we need so-and-so to get heat on their rival right now. What do we want to do? Well, why don't we bring out the little people? It'll be such good shit. It was great the last time. Remember that time we did it with the Hardys and the Dudleys?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I will freely admit the Hardys and the Dudleys one did have some entertainment value to it because of the ladders, but that was only because of the ladder part of it. But anyway, I can just hear Vince being at these meetings saying, like, you know, oh, we gotta do it because we got, you know, it was great every time we've ever done it. So yeah.
This is why Pat likes Marco Stunt so much.
Hey, it's not that I feel like Marco Stunt's a little person. It's more along the lines that I feel like Marco Stunt's a little too much like Chris Von Erich, where he's just way too small to be in a wrestling ring, no matter how hard he tries or how determined he is. He looks like that if he takes a move the wrong way, he literally will break in half.
And they've lawn darted him once or twice, which was fine. So
yeah,
lawn darted him.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Now, to be fair, ever since Hornswoggle became like a regular character, and obviously he's not with the company now, I really don't feel like they did a lot of those segments, or none that I can remember at least. And I mean,
wasn't he the anonymous GM?
Yeah, they revealed him to be the anonymous GM, which a lot of people felt was a letdown. But when has WWE ever not let you down in the long-term storyline? But I know a lot of people said that the match he had with El Torito at the TLC pay-per-view, the one that they called the WLC, I know a lot of people said that was actually a fairly entertaining match. I've never watched it.
Terrible.
I've never watched it, but maybe that got them off of just, you know, doing little people segments like that. So one can only hope, because again, it's just something that I don't think, if you need to resort to something like that to get heat, then something's wrong.
There's probably better avenues. Because I didn't like Hornswoggle, the Miz with the t-shirt gun, I just enjoyed because I didn't like Hornswoggle, and Miz shot him. That gun was like not far from him, so Hornswoggle moved. It was the t-shirt too.
Yeah. So yeah, little people, they have their place.
They've went away from it. That was definitely more Attitude Era. I feel like the Attitude Era, there were definitely times where they were doing that all the time. They definitely went away from that for the most part. Yeah,
there was a bit. Yeah, I have to agree with you with the Attitude Era. It was like anytime they wanted to be just stupid about making fun of somebody that the heel was having a rivalry with, they would bring in the little people. And,
can you imagine if at like WrestleMania 34, King Kong Bundy squashed Little Beaver, the outcry?
Oh yeah.
There would be one.
I know.
But yeah, it's like that's the case of point. In 1987, WrestleMania 3, you could get away with that.
So let's move on to something else, and we'll go to a wonderful WWE gimmick, which was really fucking bad, and that would be during Survivor Series.
Yes.
Very early Survivor Series. I don't remember which one. One of you guys will have to enlighten me with. But for anybody who doesn't watch WWE and doesn't really maybe watch wrestling, Survivor Series always takes place around Thanksgiving. And, that's their Thanksgiving pay-per-view. And the one year they decided to have this giant egg just sitting there. And
for a couple of weeks, it was on the weekly show. This egg.
Just this egg, and it's just sitting there, and they're like, what the hell's with this egg? And everybody's like, what's with the egg? What's going to happen? And then at Survivor Series, it happens. The fucking egg hatches, and out jumps this chicken-looking thing that they called the gobbledygooker.
A fucking mascot. Have a fucking egg.
Which
it's hard.
Which was absolutely terrible. And they did rehash it at the most recent Survivor Series, where they had the gobbledygooker win the 24/7 title, which was once again
it was bad. Terrible. It was bad even as a kid. I'm like, what is this shit?
Oh, yeah, because that was
That-
what Survivor Series. What? Somebody refresh my memory.
I feel like
1990.
is that the one where they did the ultimate match at the end?
Yes, yes. But it's the one that's also, of course, known as the debut of the Undertaker.
The Undertaker.
I was 9 years old when that happened. A couple months shy of 10. And when they first put this egg out there, it might have been the first moment where I openly was questioning why I watched wrestling.
At 9 years old.
Because I was saying, I just kept
Why
saying,
do I watch this stuff?
well, here's the thing. I wasn't like, say, smart for the business as you would say now or whatever.
Right.
But even so, I was like, what are they going to hatch out of an egg? What's going to come out of this egg that's going to be cool? So
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
when I read then, because this was not when I got like every pay-per-view and stuff. When I read or saw that it was like this giant turkey, or turkey outfit, guy, I just went, well, that was stupid. Poor Hector Guerrero. For those who don't know, is Hector Guerrero, the older brother of Eddie Guerrero, who was a pretty talented wrestler, who was the guy that was in the goddamn outfit. And you got to give him credit, because I remember when he and Mean Gene then went to the ring, he did kind of like a backflip into the ring, which, wearing that costume, I can't imagine was necessarily the easiest thing in the world. And I also did think it was funny that they used him on the Survivor Series this year, because they were doing the whole 30 years of the Undertaker retiring and everything. Mm-hmm. So it's like, why not bring out the other thing that was 30 years from that Survivor Series?
That ruined, like, to me, that was an okay Survivor Series, and I think that was a blemish on that Survivor Series that kind of ruined it a little bit.
It definitely was, because there was a lot of significant stuff to that Survivor Series, like you said. I mean, you had the debut of the Undertaker. You had the one and only time that they did the Ultimate Match of Survival, which, frankly, I thought was a cool concept, and I wish they had done it again. But
you had a team completely survive.
Yeah, it was the first time a team completely survived, where Rick Martel's team completely survived. It was the last WWF pay-per-view for the Honky Tonk Man, just kind of, and also for Well, he had been a pretty significant character for several years. It was also the last WWF pay-per-view appearance of Axe of Demolition. So,
and that was arguably where that team, the Warriors, was at that, and that's one of the better Survivor Series teams too. Was that?
Yeah, the Ultimate Warrior, Texas Tornado, the Modern Day Warrior, and the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors. So, it just everything about it was stupid, and it's like, when they went to the ring and did this little like dancing thing between him and Mean Gene, you can just see everybody in the audience just like visibly annoyed.
Like, I'm going to the bathroom now.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly like where on the card it fell. Like between
later. It was later.
Thing, yeah. So that's the other thing too. Then like they're building it up throughout part of the pay-per-view too, and only for the whole segment to figuratively lay an egg. Yeah, but there had to be somebody in the stands that night going, Randy Savage isn't wrestling on this show, but I'm watching this.
Yes.
Even back then, Vince was like, "This is some good shit."
I just wonder who pitched him the idea of the gobbledygooker and the fucking egg. You know what's a good idea, Vince? Let's put an egg on the show and say that this thing's gonna hatch at Survivor Series.
What city was that specific one in?
I want to say Detroit, but I don't know for sure. So let me look that up real quick. While I'm looking that up,
or Boston.
I guess there were rumors. That was actually done in Hartford.
Oh, that dump. I've been to that place.
Yeah. So, I think that. I think there were rumors that, like, Ric Flair was possibly going to come out of the egg. I don't really know why. I don't know if it was, again, that he was having, like, if that's when he was having one of his contract dispute issues with WCW around that time, and they thought maybe they could bring him in, because they thought they were going to bring him in for the first SummerSlam in '88. He was there, of course, within a year. But, and the other funny thing, too, about it is I don't know if you guys heard any of saw or heard any of Undertaker's sit down sessions with Steve Austin on the Broken Skull sessions, but he was talking about when he was getting the call and saying that he was going to debut at Survivor Series, and then he heard about the egg thing. Like in Undertaker's own words, he said he was getting worried that they were going to bring him in as Eggman. So, fortunately for him, that didn't happen because, if Undertaker had been Eggman, none of us would talk about him today. So, again, it was just a total, like, what the fuck were they thinking? / if you didn't know where this was going or you didn't have some big deal planned for it, why the hell did you even ever do it in the first goddamn place?
Yeah.
What else we got, Jeremy?
Well, before we got one last thing that we want to talk that I want to touch on as far as like some of the dumb stuff that has happened in wrestling. But before I do, I just want to say thank you to everybody for watching. We really do appreciate it. Please stay tuned to the end of the show so you do not miss tonight's Mount Rushmore. So the one other one that I want to touch on, and if anybody wants to throw any quick ones out there, feel free to throw one out there. But this one kind of pisses me off, and that's why I think it's stupid, is Stephanie McMahon taking credit for the women's revolution in wrestling.
That pisses me off more than anything else on this list.
Like, that is just absolutely fucking ridiculous. Now, maybe I can give her credit for pushing it for her, and telling her father this is a good thing, like pushing it maybe behind the scenes, but
she's not doing anything. She's not doing anything.
Like, I'm
right,
like, what?
Yeah, it's like she might have the title of head of creative or whatever the hell it is, which it's like, how exactly did she have that job in the first place again? What was it she went to college for? I don't think it was creative writing.
No.
But it was the way that there's an analogy I could draw between her and somebody else, which I'm not going to do because it's a subject I just don't want to broach. We don't talk about it on this show. But I remember that something that was going on around the same time period was, they did the whole thing with the Authority and, the whole, the Daniel Bryan storyline, you're a B+ player and everything. During that storyline, Triple H was pretty much the biggest heel in the company on Raw and SmackDown and everything. And at the same time, though, on NXT, which granted at the time was only on, the internet, it wasn't on USA and everything, but he's showing up in NXT at the same time to take these, like, congratulatory, appreciative, rounds of applause from the audience and everything, because everybody loves NXT for this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, dude, you can't fucking do that. You cannot try to play face on one show and then be the biggest heel on the other show, even if that one show was only on the internet. So Stephanie to me coming out taking that stuff, because again, I don't remember if it was the exact same time as the Daniel Bryan stuff, but it was close enough in the sense that here she is. She's pretty much always been a heel character whenever she's been on TV, going back to 1999 or whatever the hell it was. She's generally always been a heel character. And here she is trying to be like
face.
Be this big face and say, hey, I'm doing this great thing, and I'm bringing in all these women wrestlers who you guys have watched in NXT and who everybody thinks is great, and, you're going to have to just, adore me for this. So
sorry, I don't like the princess.
And then part of that too is when she came down to do announcing for the first Women's Royal Rumble match. It was like Renee Young should have been announcing that match, not you.
Yeah,
you're not. You're not a fucking announcer.
Just to go back to that Triple H thing real quick. The thing about that though is the NXT crowd is not a WWE crowd, so it doesn't matter what Triple H did. That was a bunch of like marks, and they were going to cheer Triple H no matter what. I would have been cheering him at that point because he did NXT, and it didn't matter what he did to the NXT crowd. They were not going to boo him. So
there's an easy solution to that. Then you don't come out to the crowd. You don't appear on camera. You want to do that stuff. You do that stuff when it's not being taped.
But when you were at like an NXT show, like when I went to house shows, if Triple H showed up there, you felt special. Like, you felt cool because we're like, oh, Triple H is here at our little Podunk house show. So he did that at times, I think, to, like, make it special. And like I said, when I was at the house show in Cleveland and he showed up, and I'm like, oh, shit, Triple H is here. So I get it. I get it.
I think if he was going to do that at NXT, he needed to take himself off TV.
Yeah. You can't be doing it two different ways on two different shows.
And then go back.
Yeah, that would have been fine if he's only appearing on one show at a time. But now when you can't do both at the same time.
All right. So Theo, you have been quite quiet through our dismantling of stupid things. Do you have any stupid thing that you would like to add?
I mean, just going, just enjoying the time here. If anyone want to help me give birth to a hand, we can.
Yeah!
I mean, we can do that. I mean,
God.
Or we could have her show her boobies.
I mean, yeah. Or, we can have, was it Mae Young? Just, like, French kiss the living shit out of Mark Henry on TV, and just, God.
So gross.
Yeah.
I mean,
I felt
she
bad
probably,
for Mark Henry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sexual chocolate.
The hand thing, just like,
Yes.
so lame, dumb, not thought out, and one of the most overdramatic fucking hype scenes I have ever seen WWE ever do. And they're giving birth to a hand.
It's all right, Pat. You don't have to say a word. You can just leave that alone.
No, there is one thing I need to add on to that. One of the worst parts of that was Fabulous Moolah's role in it.
Uh-huh.
The only reason I remember this is because on one of the Conrad Thompson podcasts that I listened to, I don't remember if it was Bruce Pritchard's or if it was one of the other guys. They did sometime in the last year or so, they did either a review or a watch along of that episode of Raw. And at a couple points in the podcast, they were playing like the audio of the show. And Moolah is there just like screeching like the whole time, May, you gotta have the baby! May, you gotta have the baby! I can't do a Moolah voice, what she sounded like. But she just was screaming it like over and over again.
Well, the fact that there was any possibility that Mae Young at
have a child.
that age could have a child was just overly ridiculous.
Well, and it's like they did that because there was some stupid ass thing where it's like where she's like going into labor and she's like smoking a cigar or some shit. The EMT asked like when she like last menstruated or something, and she was like, "Oh, 1965" or something like that. And it's just like, first of all, you became barren kind of early. She wasn't that old in the 60s. At that point, I think he just kind of knew that it was just pure idiocy. And the funny thing is, I don't even think you can blame Russo for that because I think Russo was gone by that point.
Yeah, he was.
We can blame Russo for anything if we'd like.
Oh yes, you can.
We
But
can just still blame him. Yeah.
I kind of doubt he had planted any seeds for that storyline before he bolted to WCW. So
I mean, he could have. They could just twisted the shit out of it and made it what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like.
I'm blaming Russo.
Yeah, it's like I don't see who that would have benefited in any ways.
Yeah, nobody.
Didn't benefit the WWE crowd, that's for sure. That was That was hard to watch.
Like Pat said, anything that involved Mae Young, other than the Dudleys putting her through a table, anything else that involved Mae Young was just not going in the right direction.
I still can't believe she agreed to take that spot too.
I know, that's nuts.
Well,
she was crazy.
I also hate to say it. I'm just guessing that they paid her pretty well. So I mean, there had to be some kind of a financial motive for it and everything. So
and Bubba definitely was very, very safe. you could tell he was definitely making sure the other person was, when he was doing it, because he did it to a couple of women, he was definitely making sure to protect them for sure.
All right.
Yeah,
So AJ,
I don't think Bubba would ever make sure, especially a woman as old as Mae Young. I especially don't think he would have done anything that would have taken any risks.
No.
AJ, do you have any moments that you would like to share? Any stupid moments?
Katie Vick.
Now you'll have to refresh my memory because I'm not sure what you mean by Katie Vick just by saying her name. Oh, just a sec.
yeah.
Just a sec. I'm having a flashback. Was
Triple
that
H was humping a corpse in a casket.
Oh,
I mean,
God.
it was
Cheers.
amusing. It was amusing in a bad way.
Yes.
It was another one of those things where you're like, whose idea was this again? And
It was amusing.
I laughed. I laughed, Pat. So
This is a
You laughed at
professional
necrophilia?
wrestling show?
I laughed at it. I chuckled.
Oh boy.
Or is this a Saturday Night Live professional wrestling show? What are we doing here? Which way are we going with this, folks?
Thanks, Joe.
I'm just saying, this is like, seriously, just think about all this shit we just talked about. It's like, is this a wrestling show, wrestling entertainment, or like we just try to do some like fake shit from like Saturday Night Live and fucking comedy movies and spoof movies and started professional wrestling? Let's see what the fans think about it. Yeah.
All right.
I can tell you one. I can tell you one that's more wrestling related. That personally, this one is still one for me, and this happened in the last 5 years.
Okay.
So, and this one this is more wrestling related. The night Goldberg beat Kevin Owens, was awful to me. It just ruined everything for me with wrestling because I'm like, wow, you just ended the best 6 months of wrestling that we've had in the last 5 years in 10 seconds. That's basically what they did. And whether you like Owens or you like Jericho or not, it's not even just me. It's not my friends who are Owens marks. The general consensus is that 6 months when Owens and Jericho were together was gold. It was lightning in a bottle, the best I've seen it in the last 6 or 7 years. And they ruined it with an older guy. If Goldberg was in his prime, I still would have not liked it, but I could see it happening. To do it with the way they did it. They robbed everybody of what was great for that 6 or 7 months in wrestling. Because when they put the belt on Owens, they didn't know what they were getting. When they put Jericho and Owens together, that was on a whim. So and then Gold, like everything good that could happen happened in that 6 months. So for me personally, they and I know why they did it. They were catering to the stupid people and stuff. That's the way I see it. But it just, that one hurt me. That one hurt a lot. And a lot of people really were enjoying what was going on in wrestling at that point, and they just ruined it in 10 seconds.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of times that WWE particularly has brought back older wrestlers for no period. And they used to do it all the time in the Royal Rumble. Like they bring back legends for the Royal Rumble. And it's like, what the fuck the purpose of this? Because they're not going to win. Who cares? I don't need to see Hacksaw Jim Duggan get in the ring and go 16 times and then get kicked out of the ring.
That's the one time where I'm not totally against it, just because usually they are only in there for a couple of minutes. It's when they bring them back and put them in actual programs with people, and they're taking spots from people in programs. If you want to put Hacksaw Jim Duggan for 3 minutes in the Royal Rumble, or if you want to bring a bushwhacker down or something, for 3 minutes, that's fine, because they're not going to win, and I don't think anybody thinks they're going to win. So
yeah, I mean, there's fundamentally no difference between legend X appearing in the Royal Rumble versus current mid-card wrestler number 30. And by number 30, I don't mean the 30th entry in the Rumble. I mean the guy who's 30th
on the ladder.
30th most important wrestler.
Yeah. No, I get it. And I personally would just rather see people that are currently in wrestling than people that I know have absolutely no chance.
I do think now
I don't get the
think
nostalgia from it
because of NXT. I think it's better when they put 5 guys from NXT in there rather than some legends. So this is a circumstance now where I think I'd rather see NXT guys than legends. So
it also does feel like they've slowed up on that a little bit, in the sense
they have.
Well, like, for example, like the one that a few years ago was for the title, like when Roman had to enter at number 1 and like Triple H won the match, which kind of says something. But there weren't any legends in that particular Rumble. It was basically all guys who were on the active roster, to even like Triple H, like you could say, is still active to an extent and everything. Mm-hmm. So, like, they are, I think, becoming a little bit more aware of that. Like, well, it's too important to really have legends in there constantly all the time. And, some of the legends that they're bringing back are also starting now to get to the point where they're just too old to get into the ring anyway. So,
correct.
Well, I mean, like, a lot of these guys are in their 60s now, or like their late 50s. It's like, now let's say like if Jericho's tenure with AEW were to end, and he were to make a surprise appearance in a Royal Rumble match, it's like as like a legend, that would be okay on one level, and it would also not be okay on another level, because Jericho's starting to look a little too close to me these days.
He is starting to lose a step.
But yeah, but again, it's just like, so it's getting to the point now where like guys who say were in their prime from like say 2000 to 2005 are like the legends who could come back now, who you could say, oh, well, he could conceivably do something. I mean, that's almost kind of like what it was with Edge this past year or so, or like if Kurt Angle were to make an appearance again. It's like, All
right. So let's move on and let's talk about some good things that have happened in wrestling, some good moments in wrestling. I can't particularly say mine, because mine is probably going to be on Mount Rushmore, but I want to kick it to Theo. What's a really good moment that you can think of that happened in wrestling? They're far and few between, I see.
Well, since you went to me first.
Oh, that was the problem. He wasn't expecting you to go to him first.
Well, I mean, I can probably throw some out there if Joe wants to think about it.
Because there's exciting things. There's a lot of wrestlers that I like.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Give it to AJ. He's
right.
probably at 15 on his spine right now.
All right, AJ, hit us up with some good moments that have happened in wrestling.
For me, when I was a kid, the first time I was really, really happy was when the Ultimate Warrior beat Hulk Hogan. So, because I actually liked the Ultimate Warrior. Like, I wanted to not root for Hogan. Like, I wanted to not root for him. I was waiting for the opportunity to not have to cheer for him, so I could not be like everybody else. Imagine that. So I was happy. I was happy when the Ultimate Warrior won, even though I think, especially as I got older, look back and say, okay, he wasn't great in the ring. But
no.
I liked his character. As a kid, I definitely liked his character. So that would be one. The night Brock Lesnar beat The Undertaker streak is definitely on that list for me, for sure. I was very happy because everybody knows I don't really like The Undertaker, and I was tired of him every year at WrestleMania. And I actually like Brock Lesnar. So
and that's one of those moments. Now, a lot of people will probably think that's a bad moment for wrestling just because of the historical portion. But if you think about it on the flip side, not whether you like Brock Lesnar, like Undertaker or not, that is a historically good moment, because it wasn't that the Undertaker had wanted to lose the streak before. He didn't want to actually carry the streak. He's talked about it. He wanted to have other people take it, but nobody would take it from him.
Brock was the first. Brock's an asshole, so Brock's like, fuck yeah, I'll do this.
He had gone to other guys. Like Shawn Michaels was supposed to take the streak from him, but Shawn wouldn't do it because he respected the Undertaker too much. And it's not that Brock Lesnar didn't respect the Undertaker, but he was really good friends with him, and he was like, okay, you want to do it? I'll take it. I'll take the heat from that. Other wrestlers didn't want to take the heat from breaking the streak. Brock Lesnar was okay with it. So historically, if you think about it that way, that's a really momentous, really cool moment in history of wrestling. Somebody breaking the streak of the Undertaker. Once you know the backstory to it, so it's pretty cool. The fact that actually happened and who would have it couldn't have been it was the right person to do it. If you think about it that way too, it was the right person to do it.
At Survivor Series 98, when The Rock won the belt for the first time and fooled everybody, and everybody thought he was going to be the people's champ, and then he turned into the corporate champ. That was a really fun night to watch wrestling because nobody saw that coming. And I liked The Rock already at that point, so it didn't matter what he did. I didn't care whether he was a good guy or a bad guy. And that was one of those nights where I remember being really happy after the pay-per-view was over and being like, wow, I think that WWE fucked with a lot of people tonight. And nobody really saw that. Nobody really saw that coming. And it was kind of cool that The Rock won the belt at Survivor Series when he debuted at Survivor Series a couple years before that. So like it was kind of everything kind of. There's times for The Rock where things have come full circle for him. That was one of those moments, I think. So that was one I remember being that was his first world title too. So like it was a big deal for him to get it then.
No, that was a really cool moment. I was actually rewatching that Survivor Series, and I forgot that was also the time where they dressed Mankind up in a suit, and he's wrestling in a fucking suit the whole entire time, which was kind of dumb, but it made sense in the whole gimmick. Like he was trying to be the corporate, champion and everything. So he's trying to play that part, and they really did a good job. If you don't, going back and watching it now, you know what happens, but at that time, not knowing, and you're like, oh my God, they're going to try and set it up. The Mankind's going to keep the belt through the entire thing.
When Shane flips the double bird at Foley when he's about to count 3, that's classic stuff. So
Yeah.
Wait, did he do that to Foley or did he do that to Austin? I thought he did that to Austin.
Oh, he did it to Austin. I'm sorry.
Austin.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were so many things that led up to you really thinking that Foley was going to win the championship.
And I mean, the Rock did. Go ahead, Jared. The Rock did put probably the worst sharpshooter I've ever seen. It's horrible. His version of the sharpshooter is pretty awful. So, Rock, no more submission holds, Rock. Please stay away from. Keep doing the people's elbow. That's better than your terrible sharpshooter. So, but they wanted to make fun of the screw job because Vince, that's some good shit. That was Vince at his best, saying this is some good shit. That night, we're gonna make fun of the screw job.
It worked for us once. It'll work for us again.
So yeah, no, that was a really cool moment in history too in wrestling. Keep going, AJ. You seem to have a bunch of them.
I mean, some of them are more recent. So like
You're
the night.
on a roll.
The night that Kevin Owens won the title, nobody saw that coming that night. They swerved everybody, and I like those moments when we don't know what's going to happen. Even if it's not necessarily something I like, I just like when they think out of the box and they try to not go with what's predictable all the time. It's nice every once in a while to see not the person you think is going to wins all the time, because more often than not in wrestling that happens. I'd say 75% of the time, the person you think is going to win usually wins the match. So that night, it was Big Cass, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Kevin Owens. If going into that night, the only person that Owens had a better chance of winning that match than was Big Cass, probably, like looking at it from a wrestling perspective.
Yeah.
So
what was that group of guys again?
Big Cass, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Kevin Owens. And Finn Balor got hurt.
One of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong.
Finn got hurt. Thank you, Seth Rollins. Finn got hurt and had to give the title up. So, and nobody saw, when Vince came, or when Triple H came out, there's no way anybody thought he was going to help Kevin Owens win that match. And I remember the pop that night. The crowd was going apeshit when he turned and pedigreed Seth Rollins instead of Owens. And the look on Owens' face was priceless. And all these people like me who liked Kevin Owens, who liked him back when he was in ROH and stuff, were popping like 5-year-old kids that night because they actually tried to go against the grain and do something. And then we got Jericho and Kevin Owens. So if they don't do that, we don't get the Jericho Owens dynamic for 6 months. So that was definitely the right call that night, 100%. And I am a mark for Kevin Owens, so I enjoyed it more than the average fan. But I think a lot of people that watch wrestling enjoyed that night because it was not what everybody thought was going to happen. They flipped the script a little bit, and that just doesn't happen very often anymore. I know Pat doesn't like Brock, but when Brock came back in the Money in the Bank match a year and a half ago, nobody saw that coming. That was cool just because it was something that nobody really saw coming. So I definitely like when that stuff happens, even if it's not the people I want. I'm like, well, at least WWE tried to throw something in and make this not a little bit unexpected or whatever.
They do the same old norm shit they usually do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and if you want to go super
some of my stuff.
Go ahead, Joe.
Go ahead, Joe.
So, this is challenging for me because I'm only a mark for a certain group of people. I like a lot of wrestlers, but I'm only marks for certain ones. So, like, Finn winning the title at WrestleMania was one of them. Hogan slamming Andre. Ricky beating Macho Man. Hogan turning heel.
Those are all good choices, too.
Punk winning the title and giving Vince McMahon the little kiss as he's, leaving the arena. Those are just some for me. Jericho, my other favorite is Jericho winning both belts when he became the undisputed.
Yeah. I beat The Rock and Stone Cold in the same night.
Yes.
That is a really cool moment, too.
Jericho was always one of my favorites in WCW, and he has so many good moments in WCW. People just weren't really watching it at the time and just kind of missed with him. But he's that was one of my moments with him too. Those are just
great moments at WCW.
I don't have a lot really as far as doing stuff out of the norm is cool. Another one I like Charlotte beating Asuka, being Asuka undefeated streak for the title. That was good. I'm glad Charlotte beat that streak. Even though I lost, it's just so that was a good thing too. It's just like AJ said, when they change things up, it's cool to see that and not doing the same shit. But for me, it's like it's more enjoyable for some of the marks that I'm marked out for, not really for everything.
Well, I mean, that's generally what mine is. Mine's Owens and The Rock, and it's like guys who I really, really like. Generally, those are the moments I remember the most. I think my favorite WCW moment is when Goldberg lost. That was probably my favorite WCW moment. So I love the cattle prod and everything. I was so happy that he lost that night. I was so tired of him.
That was obvious that was going to happen.
Well, and you said Jericho, and I went back and you said WCW, and I went back to because I went and watched the List promo.
Oh my
God. That's a really good moment in WCW. Granted, it's only a promo, but it's a really good because he's just going on and like the
armbar.
You mean the thousand and the thousand.
Yeah, that list.
and he
where he says like armbar 2 or 3 times over, and he says he says some like Dr. Seuss term, which somebody has now like made into an actual move.
And it's like it was like Jericho was like so good even when he had Ralphus, he was fucking great. And everybody, he was just so creative even back then. And Goldberg was such a blockhead that he didn't even realize that what Jericho was doing was going to help Goldberg get over. He was such an idiot that he didn't even realize that Jericho's being an asshole so I can beat him in 5 seconds or whatever. And like he was like too stupid to even see that Jericho was actually trying to help Goldberg get over more. And he was too like dumb to like see that Jericho was like, Jericho definitely has his finger on the pulse of wrestling. He has for most of his career. Yeah. He just knows what's going on. He really does. He has.
When he made, and another great moment with him and being promos and stuff like that is when he broke out the List in WWE for the first time. He said, "You know what? You just made the list," and he's writing down the person's name. Like that shit was funny. Like that's a great moment, and that carried a really good like gimmick for him.
That was part of that. That was part of that 6 months with Kevin Owens. That was part of that great 6 months with Kevin Owens. That was when the List came out.
There's another thing with Jericho. He does it during a pay-per-view, and there's a battle royal. It's a 20-man battle royal, and I can't remember the pay-per-view, but each wrestler is coming out, and he's on the stage, and he's announcing them as they're coming out. And he's like, he's making fun of their outfits. He's making fun of their name. He's like, so-and-so from Kalamazoo. What the hell? Kalamazoo? He starts making fun of Kalamazoo. Like, it's just some random stuff for every single wrestler that comes out. He's just making fun of them. And it's just, I laughed the whole goddamn time. And then when they're all in the battle, he's like, I think he still goes on for another minute or two while they're in the match, and he's still making fun of people. It's hilarious.
I feel like that had to be something that happened in WCW.
Yes,
Yeah,
it did.
was. Yeah, it was a WCW pay-per-view. But I just can't remember which one it was. I watched it a couple months ago. I think it was.
He's got such a AEW advertises when he's going to be in the announce booth at this point. They announce for the next 3 weeks. They're like, this week it said Chris Jericho will be announcing. So that's like a selling point to listen to him announce because he's so entertaining even doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you talking about more recent moments is when Roman Reigns turned heel. That is a great moment in wrestling. That was a really smart thing to do. That is, him turning heel just was awesome. And I know we talked about it before, but talking about great moments, that's a great moment in wrestling to have your I don't want to say number one, but biggest babyface probably. I don't want to say number one because there's probably somebody that was actually more of a better babyface. But having him turn heel and coming out with Paul Heyman of all freaking people is just a brilliant, smart move in wrestling.
Just think, if they had at some chance done that with John Cena, maybe it would have been entertaining if they had done it with him.
Yeah. It would have been. They just didn't want to pull the trigger.
Well, he didn't want to do it either. That was partly him too. Like he had a big say in if he was going to be heel or not, and he himself did not want to turn heel. That's just they to each their own. But when you're losing crowd, I don't care what he says. When they tell you and see, there's a dumb there. Let's go with dumb here. Dumb not having Cena ever go heel again. I got sick of hearing he's the most polarizing. No, he's actually fucking people hate him. The only people that really like him right now, besides some of the people that just are like, I just really like John Cena, like myself,
are the kids and the women.
The kids and the women like that. When that's your fan base, when that's completely your entire fan base, and that is a small portion of the overall fan base, because most of the fan base is 18 to 35. That's a huge portion of the fan base.
The other problem with that though too is it got to the point where the dumb people that were at the shows were just like, oh, he's doing it, so I'm going to do it. It's cool to say Cena sucks. Like, how many people were actually doing it because they didn't like Cena, or they were just like, oh, I'm going to do it because that guy's doing it? That definitely happened. So
I think the other problem, too, was, he knew he was such a baby face. And he didn't care about the 18 to 35-year-old men. He was fine with the females and the kids buying.
Because that's who was buying his merchandise.
And I think the other problem, too, is he is one of the top 3 Make-A-Wish people.
Well, he's number one, I think.
Their year. And he's like number one wrestler that does it. So I don't think he wanted to go down that road
and ruin that. I don't think he wanted to ruin that.
And he's such a company guy. Vince McMahon owns his name. That's it. Vince McMahon owns him. If he would leave and does movies, anything he puts John Cena on, McMahon's getting money off of it.
Yeah.
So Rock's different. Rock's lucky. He was able to do what he did.
Yeah. So Darth Pat, any memorable moments that stick out in your mind that were good?
Some of them have already been said, like Hogan body slamming Andre, even though, of course, as we now know, people had body slammed Andre prior to that. It was still the spectacle of the moment and everything that made that really all the more incredible. I think Hogan's heel turn was also mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
to me, some other things that kind of stick out in my mind, and some of these I don't really remember seeing. Like I didn't necessarily see live, but when you watch them back now, especially with the hindsight of all these years, you kind of realize just how significant the moment was. Undertaker's debut at Survivor Series was because there literally was this like hush that kind of fell upon the crowd, and everybody was just kind of staring at him like, "What the hell is? Who the hell is this?" People I think were legitimately frightened of him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was starting to get to a point where that didn't really happen much anymore, even by that point. So I think that was kind of cool. This one's going to sound kind of funny, but when Hogan won the title at WrestleMania 9, I was probably the happiest person ever because, he had been gone for a year basically, and he comes back and then he wins the title. I don't care that Brett got screwed out of the title in that whole circumstance. I was just convinced that Hogan was back and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And of course that didn't last very long. So in hindsight, that moment sucked.
You could actually put that on the opposite list for me too. So that would be a shitty moment for me.
In retrospect, it does go on the shitty list moment in a lot of ways. The shitty moment list. But at the time, it was like, oh yeah, Hogan champion again. Yeah, this is great. This is awesome. When Bret Hart won the title from Yokozuna at WrestleMania 10. I really felt like they did the right thing by making that into a big deal because they had Luger and then the rest of the faces come out and celebrate in the ring with him and everything. And I just thought it was really cool, especially the moment when Savage hit the ring and he gave Bret this big hug and everything, because there was Savage, who was like the last vestige of the old guard of WWE at that point. And that was his last WrestleMania appearance too. So I just thought that was really cool. And that pretty much was kind of sending the message all right, Bret's the guy, So those were fun moments. The debut of Nitro, really, in a lot of ways too, because it was really unique the way that they did it from the Mall of America. The surprise of Luger appearing, just the knowledge and that there was something else that was out there then, and hey, I can flip back and forth because WWF was starting to go downhill at that point. It wasn't incredibly interesting in late '95. So those are all pretty cool moments. And the last one I'll mention before saving one for Mount Rushmore, then, this is the moment that can't be talked about anymore. But for me, the end of WrestleMania 20 was really cool because I know, this is my choice though. So you just pipe it. Being somebody who felt like he was still more of a WCW guy through the years of the Monday Night Wars for various reasons, just to see two WCW guys on the top at the point was to me was pretty cool, especially because I always liked Benoit, and I had become convinced at that point that they were just never actually going to put the title on Benoit. So when Triple H tapped out, I did legitimately jump out of my seat cheering, because I just couldn't believe that it was ever going to happen, especially with what had happened between Triple H and Booker T the year before. That's why I think I was convinced that it was never going to happen. So that was cool. Now, of course, you can't talk about that moment anymore in a positive manner because of everything with Benoit. That is what it is. But at the moment, that was a pretty cool moment.
I'm glad that moment's disappeared, so I don't have to talk about it. So
yeah, but no, I agree. At the time in which that moment happened, that was really cool because for me,
unless you were there.
For me, it was more about Eddie Guerrero because Eddie Guerrero, if I remember correctly, didn't he win the title also that night?
Well, he had already retained. He retained
it against
Kurt Angle.
Okay, so you had him retain it, and then you had Benoit win it. Not that I really cared if Benoit won or lost, but the fact that you had two WCW guys come in and be the top guys in WWE was a big thing because Vince, as we know, Vince loves to shit on WCW guys for the most part until they get around to, until he gives them enough time to prove themselves, which evidently he finally gave them enough time to prove themselves and put two WCW guys on at the top spots, which was kind of interesting.
We also at that WrestleMania, got another really bad moment. We got one of the worst matches in WWE history that night. So we got Brock versus Goldberg. That was a fucking train wreck.
The match when they both knew they were headed out.
Yes, that match was an absolute pile of shit.
You could almost argue. You could also almost argue that being a great moment, and the reason I say that is because that truly was the first time that I could ever really point to a match where I say the audience completely and totally hijacked the match.
They did.
I don't think it had ever really happened to that extent prior to that match, but it was probably because they were in New York, so it's definitely a more
hostile crowd. Definitely, yeah, there's a hostile crowd in New York for sure.
It's a smarter crowd, and it's a crowd that can turn very hostile. Knew that both, like you said, that both guys were on their way out, and so they were determined. Like, they could have put on a 5-star clinic, and I think the audience still would have shit over it because they knew that they were both leaving.
I don't think Goldberg was capable of a 5-star clinic ever.
Yeah, that's
just making it hypothetical.
Brock at that time, yes. Maybe. Yeah, Brock at that time was definitely capable of 5-star matches. Goldberg at no point really was.
But yeah, I've never seen that match, and I'm probably glad I've never seen that match.
I mean, like
AJ was saying, he was there that night. I was watching that at home on pay-per-view with my dad. Yep. And my dad, I filled my dad in on all like the backstage goings on and stuff. So I told him that, like, supposedly Lesnar's, like, Brock's going to quit. And he's going to go try to play in the NFL. And Goldberg, I guess, hasn't enjoyed his year, so he's leaving too. So I think he was even turning to me and saying, like, I think they're louder than they were for the Rock Hogan match. And that may also be because I think Madison Square Garden's a smaller building than Skydome.
Yeah. When I left that night, I'm like, when I walked out of WrestleMania that night, and that was the first one I'd ever been to, I remember thinking to myself, wow, my favorite part of the night shouldn't have been the first match, and The Rock making fun of Ric Flair should not have been the highlights of my night, and that ended up being the highlights of my night. I will say that the triple threat match was a good match. It at least was a good match, and it was Michaels at WrestleMania. That's pretty much all you have to say at that point. When did Michaels have a bad match at WrestleMania? Like, especially after he came back? Never. When? WrestleMania 5?
When the Rockers wrestled the Twin Towers.
That's
literally the only reason I'm saying that is because, one, it was his first WrestleMania match, and two, I honestly don't remember anything memorable about that match.
I did tack on to that after he came back.
Yes, so, I know, but I was thinking of that before you said that.
I mean, how many WrestleManias after Shawn Michaels came back did he not have the best match at said WrestleMania?
No, he's had a lot of good WrestleMania matches.
Best match?
So, Jerry,
I don't know, because I can't think of every.
With two of the most disinterested guys wanting to be in the ring together or just be in the ring, that is the match.
It is bad. It is bad. It is just. Like, I don't know what Meltzer gave it. I don't know if that's a dud, or I don't know if Meltzer gave it negative stars.
Should be the Goldberg Lesnar match.
Yes.
Let me find
that's
it.
It is bad.
Slow motion. They're walking around. They're like half-assing everything. I was legitimately waiting for one of them to get hurt because of how bad the match was.
It is probably the worst match I've seen live, other than the Eva Marie match at NXT. So
it had nothing to do with those two not liking each other. It's just they
didn't care
at Vince McMahon,
and they didn't care.
They both were both mad at Vince for their each reasons and all that jazz. And
Pat's right. That was definitely one of the first times where the crowd legitimately hijacked a match.
It's
all right. Well,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jerry.
No, go ahead.
All right. Well, I was going to say real quick. I just remembered another great moment that I forgot to mention, which isn't my Mount Rushmore moment. Cena's appearance at the 2008 Royal Rumble, where he came in at number 30. Because you
may have just spoiled somebody else's moment. Thanks, Pat.
Oh shit! I'm sorry. All right, then I'll move on. All right, wait, hold on.
Move on.
Hold on. I'll rewind it. Okay. You mentioned Meltzer's rating for the Brock Goldberg match. Real quickly, I just want to say, because that one reliving the war podcast, they just got past the Good Friends Better Enemies pay-per-view, which is where Michaels and Diesel had a pretty good no holds barred match, which was Diesel's last TV appearance. It was also Razor Ramon's last TV appearance because they were both in Nitro like a month later. There was an Intercontinental title match between Ultimate Warrior and Goldust in that pay-per-view, which officially went 7.5 minutes, but it was nothing but stalling and fighting over Goldust's chair and the former Mantar appearing as Goldust's bodyguard. Meltzer gave that match negative 3.5 stars because it wasn't a match. They never. I don't think they ever hit each other. But anyway, negative 3.5 stars. I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay. Meltzer gave the Goldberg-Lesnar Meltzer gave the Lesnar-Goldberg match a 1.25 stars.
Wow.
For comparison, the Big Show Cena match for the U.S. title, the Rikishi and Scotty versus the Bashams versus the Acolytes versus the World's Greatest Tag Team, and the Undertaker versus Kane matches from that same show also got a 1.25 stars rating.
Okay, Cena and Big Show was definitely better than a 1.25 stars.
I would agree too.
Wow.
There were 2 matches that got lower ratings that night. Molly Holly versus Victoria Hare versus title match for the women's title got 1 star.
Wow.
And the Playboy evening gown match of Tori and Sable against Stacey, Miss Jackie got a 1/4 star.
Any evening gown match is just ridiculous.
That shouldn't even count as a match.
Right, yeah. But, even the Undertaker-Kane match, which was nothing special.
It was definitely nothing special.
Was better than the Goldberg-Brock match.
Hey, Joe,
but it was better.
There's a
the Cena Big Show match only getting the 1.25 stars is unbelievable too.
There's a moment, Joe, there's a moment specifically more for me and you, not the other two. This one would more appeal to me and you. There was a certain Japanese wrestler that debuted in NXT, and his debut in NXT was fantastic.
They finally got Okada?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That night was hype. Like that crowd was hype as fuck even before he even came out. Like before his music even hit, they were going ape shit that night. And then to have a 5-star match with Sami Zayn in your debut, that was good shit that night with Nakamura. So that's the most excited I think I've been in a while about somebody's debut that they hyped up. Yeah. So.
All right. So now that we've talked about some really bad moments and some really good moments, it's almost time for Mount Rushmore. So stay tuned. We're just about there. But before we go to Mount Rushmore, we have good old Theo with a stumper. Theo, hit us with the stumper question.
Well, tonight's stumper question is a true or false.
Ooh.
How many championships did Michael Jordan win?
False. True?
I'm just having fun with Joe.
So, speaking of that, I'm just going to sidetrack real quick.
Oh, no.
I went to the food store today, right? And I know I don't want to talk about this topic. I went to the food store, and I'm walking down to one aisle, and it's the magazines, right? Well, they have a Slam magazine, and another magazine. It has Michael Jordan on it. It says the greatest of all time. And there's another magazine, a basketball magazine, and it has that other bonehead from L.A. on it. So that magazine was kind of covering half of the Slam magazine. I go, oh, hell no. I took the door. I threw that shit to the side. I put the Jordan right in front. I'm like, that's where that fucking shit belongs, right there. And I moved it out to
Me and Joe, we try really hard to avoid it.
Oh,
but Joe and me just stumble on stuff. And Joe did send me something the other day, and he's like, sorry, I stumbled across this. So we try really hard to stay away.
I can't believe it.
How dare they put that fucker's fucking magazine in front of the real GOAT. And I'm like, put that shit to the side. Michael Jordan right there. That's right.
I can't believe you're calling Magic or Kareem or James Worthy or Kobe or Shaq a bum like that. I just I can't believe you're saying that about one of those Lakers legends.
No, not them. Not them.
I can't believe you're saying. I can't believe you're saying that about Kawhi. I thought you liked Kawhi.
All right, let me get to my stumper. My stumper is a true or false question. So, CM Punk had a song called "The Fire Burns." Was one of his original songs when he came into WWE.
I'm getting my guess ready.
True or false? That song originally was used by Randy Orton.
True.
Yeah, I'm going to go with true. I believe I remember hearing that song. Dun, 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 dun.
Do I want to be the outlier or?
Well, you are a little different.
I would say you should want to get it right. So if you think it's true, I say you answer true.
All right, I'll agree with them because Pat was very confident about that answer. So I'll say true.
Ding, 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 ding.
Hooray! I like when I go along with somebody that probably knows the answer.
That song was originally used by Randy Orton, but not for too long because they didn't think it fit him, so they gave him new music. And then when CM Punk came along, they thought it fit him better, and so he decided to be like, nope, I don't like that. I'm using the other song that he used for the remainder of his career.
Well, that's kind of funny then too, because that's something else that I could kind of pick out as like what I thought was a great moment, which was
To play ball.
Punk's return.
Ah, yes.
The problem, of course, was that he wasn't away for long enough. But like when that other music, when Cult of Personality started playing in the ring after Cena won the title, and everybody's like, what the hell's going on, everything, and then he just like walked out. Like the ovation was pretty strong. So
yeah, that was a cool moment.
And it was great that the announcers just like cut out and just like the pictures tell the story for once.
Yeah.
All right, then it is on to Mount Rushmore. And Mount Rushmore tonight is going to be either our favorite moment of all time, well, not of all time, but just one of our favorite moments, or one of the dumbest things that we've ever seen in wrestling. So we can go either way. It does not matter. I'm going to start it off, and I'm going to thank Dark Pat for slightly mentioning my moment a little bit. But,
I'm sorry, I didn't.
I mean, this could have been my moment also for sure. This is a moment for me and Jeremy both.
So it's the Royal Rumble. I'm terrible with remembering numbers.
2008.
Thank you, 2008. Even though I know Darth Pat just mentioned it, I wasn't really paying attention. I was trying to act like he didn't actually just talk about what I was going to talk about.
Yes, that's an acceptable,
So 2008 Royal Rumble, and Cena had been out with, I think he had a pectoral tear. He had a pectoral tear.
One of the two.
His boobie was torn.
Yes, I think, if I remember correctly, it was a pectoral tear. They're like, oh, he's going to be out for 6 months, blah, 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 all this stuff. And the only thing they ever showed of him was, I believe they showed his surgery, like after he got out of surgery in like one training session or some shit like that. So you knew that he was training, but you had no idea when he was actually coming back. They never stink about it.
They were like the dirt sheets and stuff were saying WrestleMania hypothetically, like after WrestleMania, right around WrestleMania after. That's what the dirt sheets were saying at the time.
So nobody had a clue. Cena didn't say shit about it. WWE didn't say shit about it. And you're watching the Royal Rumble, and you're like, and you're like, oh my god, fucking Triple H is gonna win this shit. Like, really, fucking A. Like, I can't believe this is gonna happen. And you're like, who the fuck is gonna be number 30? Because nobody knew. Like, and all of a sudden they pan over to the
MSG too. This also took place in the Garden.
They pan over to the entrance, and you just see this guy with his head down, and then all of a sudden his fucking music hits, and I lost my fucking shit. Like, I was just like a fucking little kid. I was like, oh my fucking God.
I think
Jeremy,
I think Jeremy, me and you were like, is this really going to be him, or is it going to be somebody dressed up? It wasn't a little person dressed up like him, but it could have been.
But it was like, what the, like, holy fucking shit. Like, he just surprised the hell out of everybody. And that's when I thought, oh my God, Cena uses steroids to get back into shape so he could heal his torn muscle. I don't know if he really did, but I was like,
I don't think at that point he was.
I
don't think he was. He actually admitted that he did steroids when he played football and stuff in high school. Yeah. So I don't know if he really was doing it at that point. I think he may not have been.
Right. And I was just saying that, but because it was so surprising that he came back like 3 months earlier than what he was supposed to. But
Super Cena.
Yeah. But I literally lost my freaking shit. I was jumping up and down. I think I slapped AJ a high five or maybe gave him a hug. I don't fucking remember, but I was just like fucking. I lost my shit.
Pat, were you there that night?
Yeah.
Okay. Me and Jeremy were acting like 5-year-old kids, probably.
Yeah, you definitely were. There's two things I remember about that. One is that there were some whispers. They were very scant, but they were there. That Brock could have been returning at that show. Yeah. But that was another time where like some Brock's coming back rumors were out there.
We had to wait 4 more years for that.
Yeah. But there was absolutely nothing about Cena coming back that night. Like, everybody still thought he was still going to be out for another 3 or 4 months at least.
And they definitely snuck him in the building after the pay-per-view started, I think.
Yeah, there was literally not one thing that I can remember having seen on the internet
at all,
any source, that said Cena could come back.
Yeah.
Let alone will come back, but it even said that he could come back. So it was a complete, total, utter surprise.
In the internet era, that doesn't happen very often.
Right. That's what was so freaking remarkable about it, was that it's like you'll know at some point everything that's going to happen before it happens to a certain extent. Like, it may not be like, okay, I know for sure it's happening because X, but you might be like, well, I've got a pretty good idea it's going to happen, that kind of thing. So,
yeah, absolutely.
I could say about Kurt Angle too, him showing up in TNA. Really, no one really knew about that either.
Yeah, that was pretty surprising.
No, but I wasn't surprised, because I remember at the time his release from WWE was fairly controversial, and he tried to retell the story when he came back to WWE, but the whole thing was that, Kurt, we want you to go to rehab. Oh, I don't think I need to go to rehab. Okay, well, then we got to release you. And because the story was out there that he didn't think he needed to go to rehab, I wasn't honestly too surprised that he went to TNA as quickly as he did. I remember I was like kind of sort of writing an article for a website at the time too, and I like wrote my next one then about, it was like reviewing like the Brian Pillman DVD and talking about how he died early and everything, and then I kind of drew the parallel then to Kurt saying, we know that he's messed up because that's why WWE released him, because why else would you fire Kurt Angle? And now he immediately jumped shit to TNA, and he's obviously not gotten help for his situation. So I was trying to draw a cautionary tale. So I was basically saying, hey, if Kurt Angle were to drop dead in the ring this sometime in the next 3 years, should we be shocked? No. But, yeah. Luckily, that didn't happen.
All right. So, Darth Pat, what is your favorite moment or dumbest moment in wrestling?
Well, they're both favorite moments. I'm going to do like a tie. I'm going to cheat, and hopefully I'm not stealing somebody else's moment here again. But I honestly don't think I am.
I doubt it.
These are actually both more recent moments, because one it was because it was something that, again, I didn't honestly think would ever happen. Even though there were rumors, I still didn't think it would ever actually happen. And the other one, because it was really genuinely the last time that I can really felt that like wrestling made me like feel something, in the sense that like, I desperately wanted something to go this way, and like it was really pissing me off that it wasn't. So that moment was the Yes Movement. The whole thing with Daniel Bryan fighting the Authority, but the moment that I'm referring to in particular was the moment where he had like the audience come in and like invade the ring and everything, and basically force them to give him the WrestleMania match and everything. I just thought that was a really cool visual to have like all the fans in the ring there. And yeah, that was the one time where I'm like, would you please just listen to your fucking audience for once and do the right goddamn thing? Nobody wants Batista to be in this match right now. So nobody wanted Batista to be in the match.
Maybe one person.
Maybe one person.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I think he shouldn't have been in it.
Yeah, so that really made me like feel like you were part of the story as an audience member too. At least that's the way I felt.
Mm-hmm.
The other moment,
very well.
Yeah, the other moment that I'm referring to then is the moment that while there were rumors about it happening, I never really thought it was going to happen. We already mentioned the match in passing, the Royal Rumble match where Roman Reigns had to defend the title from number 1. Because the 10-second clock clicked down for the first time that night for number 3, and this music that nobody had ever heard before started playing.
Mr. AJ Styles.
And then the screen said, "I am phenomenal," and he came walking out, and I was legitimately going nuts because while there were rumors, it was still one of those, I got to see it to believe it things. I was really just convinced that he was never going to set foot in a WWE ring at that point.
Me and Joe were probably going nuts that night also.
So I thought that was
another one. You piece of shit. No.
Too bad. Speak first or forever hold your peace. But so that was definitely a mark out moment. So just seeing him come walking down there was was really damn cool. And the crowd reaction too definitely helped. The fact that as soon as the word phenomenal came up on the screen, that like the crowd lost it because they knew exactly what that meant even before he came walking out, shows what he carried with him as well. So
yeah. All right, passing it over to Theo. What do you got for us, Theo? Worst, not worst, dumbest, or favorite?
I'm not going to dumbest. Dumbest is God. I could pick the Kiss My Ass Club if I wanted to go that route or some shit.
Oh, we didn't actually talk about the Kiss My Ass Club, but oh well.
We're going to pick.
Or the Dog Kennel from Hell. We could.
Elizabeth. Yeah. I got to pick that one too. I was torn between two, and one of them just a favorite moment of a wrestling match that only some of us have really seen. I've seen it when it first happened, but I'm going to go as a New Japan wrestling match because it was a long story and a rivalry with two people. But I'm going to go with John Cena versus CM Punk and that rivalry they had. And in the hometown of CM Punk, he wins the belt and walks away. I just love the spot. It's just great that his character hops over the wall and kisses Vince McMahon a nice kiss goodbye and walks away with the belt. It's kind of like one of those, like, hey, boss, I'm taking all your shit and all your toys. Go fuck off. And the dude just walks out and takes all of his fucking good toys. I don't know. It was a good storyline between those two. Those two had, like, legit chemistry, which was good. And, I mean, we've touched on this before. I think that's one of the matches that helped Cena kind of change his ways as far as wrestling in matches because of the type of people, wrestlers that were in the company at the time. Two guys were really great on the mic. Two guys really good in the ring. You know, I know people shit on Cena for the 5 moves of doom, but if you ever watch his OVWs, I think it was OVW or old shit and down there and whatnot, the dude could wrestle. He always could. It's just always Vince McMahon taking his superstar and limiting to what he's allowed to do or whatever in the ring.
Put him in that cookie cutter model.
Yeah, you know, so, but, you know, overall, that's one of my favorite moments. It was a cool storyline for me. I never hated Cena. I just got always tired of the Super Cena shit when they did that for like 2 years. Of course, y'all know I'm a huge CM Punk fan, so it was just
Chicago,
a great storyline. And you know, a good part of wrestling. It was just good overall for me.
All right. So last but not least, AJ, what you got for us?
There's lots of things I could have picked, but I think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna pick the night that they announced the celebrity guest host for WrestleMania when it was The Rock. Because we had not seen him forever, and I had been waiting, and you had been waiting, Jeremy. We had been waiting and waiting and waiting for him to come back finally. I've watched that promo so many times, it's ridiculous. So, because and it wasn't a complete surprise. There was definitely rumors that it could be The Rock, but they did lots of things to try to sway you one way or the other. And when the lights went out and the electricity came on, when his music hit, that is the biggest pop I have heard in wrestling in the last 10 years or whatever. Like when his music hit that night, that place went absolutely bonkers. Even when Austin comes out and stuff, this overshadows that. Like that place went absolute bonkers when The Rock's music hit that night. And then he came out and cut a 25-minute promo and shit on The Miz and shit on Cena. And we're like, hey, look, The Rock still has the gift of gab, and he can still shit on just about everybody. That was the Fruity Pebbles night. So
you can't see me. You can't see me.
So I'm
Come out of your orange shirt. Come out of your green shirt.
I could have picked when Michaels won, or like the night Brock came back, because the night Brock came back in 2012, the crowd went apeshit that night too. But I'm gonna go Rock being the guest host, because then we got promos and we got a couple of matches out of The Rock, and the promo work between him and those guys in that couple of years, even when The Rock and Cena or The Rock and Punk were feuding, we got mic work there from those guys too. So we got The Rock on the mic, which when me and Jeremy, when The Rock comes back, that's what we want. Let's not lie at this point, Jeremy. When The Rock comes back, we don't even care if he wrestles. We just want to see him cut promos.
I looked forward. Hey, talk about The Rock cutting promos. I looked forward to the movie about Paige when their interaction with The Rock happened. I looked forward to that moment. I was like, I know this coming. It's coming. When is it coming? I was like, this is fucking awesome.
I've said this on here before. I'm not ever going to argue with anybody about The Rock being this, that in the ring. He is the best guy I have ever seen on the mic. I don't even think it's hands down. I don't even think there's anybody else close to him. There's guys like Jericho and Flair who are in the same, but I just think The Rock he's on the top of that mountain, and I don't think we're going to see anybody better than him. So that was what he was really good at. And he obviously used it to transition to Hollywood. So
you said that was when he got
Hollywood?
You said that was when he got for celebrity guest host of WrestleMania, right?
Yeah, he was going to be the guest host for WrestleMania.
Okay. I thought that's what it was.
I said this to a couple of my other friends, in the last week. Seriously, guys, when we saw The Rock wrestling when I lived with you guys, if I would have told you that he is going to become the highest paid athlete in Hollywood, I don't think any of us would have believed that was coming 15 years ago.
No, especially because, if you say 15 years ago, so to me that's 2005. Let's see, at that point, I think as far as feature movies with him being the star, he had done the Scorpion King,
The Rundown,
the Rundown, the Walking Tall remake.
Okay, so after his first 5 movies or whatever, I think when he was in WWE before he went to Hollywood, I don't think there's any way I could have fathomed he was going to end up where he did.
Well, what my point was going to be is that I was afraid that he was already kind of limiting himself to a very specific kind of role and character and niche and everything, so that he might have a decent career, but he would really only ever be at best a B-lister in Hollywood. Yeah, he wouldn't be a guy who would be in the guaranteed biggest blockbusters and drawing the highest paychecks and shit like that. So
because I like his HBO show. I can't remember what it's called right now.
Ballers?
Yeah.
Ballers!
He's a sports agent. That sounds really good.
Yeah. I've never seen it, but it looks good.
I've seen it a little bit here and there. He's definitely is playing a different role in that than a lot of his movie stuff. So that's what's good about it.
And I'm okay if he's going to come back in a year or two and we're going to see him fight Roman Reigns and he fights one more match. I'm okay if he fights one more match. I only want one more match. That's it. I don't want anything after that. But if he's going to fight Roman at one of these next 2 WrestleManias, that's fine. One more match, no more after that.
Yeah. And we'll see.
I'm also going to put that in the I'll believe it when I see it category. Right. The reason being is...
Well, it's not going to be this year. Supposedly they said it could be 38 now.
Right.
So.
Well, the reason I'm saying that, though, too, is it's going to cause problems with his movie roles and stuff because if he gets
hurt...
Right. It's going to cause insurance issues, which is something that is a big thing behind the scenes in Hollywood movies. If he's scheduled to do a movie around the same time that he would be conceivably wrestling, nobody was going to want to insure whatever movie he's going to do, and that would basically kibosh that entire movie. So he's going to have to clear his schedule for a little while on either side of a potential match.
That's why it sounds like it would be 38. It sounds like if he's going to do it, he's going to try to.
They definitely want to be able to throw it together for next year. The year after that, maybe, but.
He's not doing anything in front of nobody either. That dude is not doing anything in front of no crowd.
Oh, so. Yeah. We've had the debate back and forth about how much it's kind of hurt McIntyre and the fact that he didn't get to have that big moment in front of the crowd and everything. Yeah, The Rock is somebody who absolutely positively needs the crowd.
Listen, the Black Adam movie needs to be made first before he wrestles.
I agree.
Okay, Joe.
That movie needs to be made first?
Is
number one?
Is that potentially being done next year? I mean, I don't really know what his schedule is.
It's potentially supposed to start filming next February or March
of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Well, we'll see. So, just to recap our Mount Rushmore, since we kind of went on a little sidebar to recap our Mount Rushmore, which ended up being all favorite moments in wrestling, good stuff. We have Cena's return at the Royal Rumble. We have the Yes Movement / AJ Styles showing up in WWE. We have CM Punk walks away with the belt, and The Rock announced as the celebrity host of WrestleMania. Those are some pretty historic moments in WWE all around. Pretty damn good stuff. Interesting how we had nothing from WCW. I'm sure there's something there, but unfortunately we didn't have anything to say. But
it's Sting!
The biggest thing in WCW is kind of Hogan's heel.
Yeah, Hogan's heel turn is probably it.
So, but that's all right.
Other things that are below it, but nothing.
I mean, they're responsible for the worst moment ever, though, so they get that. So
yeah, Goldberg winning the title from Hogan in the Georgia Dome was a pretty cool moment.
For him.
But like a lot of people also said,
no comment on that one.
Well, for the moment itself, it was a lot of people see it as like being like the high water mark of the promotion, and I think a lot of people have said that. When it went off the air that night, Bobby Heenan took his headset off and said, "Oh, there's nowhere to go but down from here."
Well, when you give away a pay-per-view match for free, there is nowhere to go but down from there. So
yeah, I think it was along those lines, and I think it was also he was of the aspect being that there's no way they could top something like that, which they couldn't. So.
All right. Well, with all that being said, we really appreciate everybody tuning in, no matter where you're catching this on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast information, and we do appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to our entire show, and hope you enjoyed every moment as much as, well, I can say at least as much as I did, because I laughed my ass off at most of this stuff. With that being said, we want to say good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, and we'll see you on the next episode.